Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy. Thanks for joining us today, March 29th, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, to start us off today, we'll recall the words of the Abbot Orsini, who tells us that today they celebrate the apparition of Our Lady to Saint Bernard, the Bishop of Clermont in Auvergne, whom she ordered to say Mass one night when he had remained in the church to pray. The saint leaning against a pillar as if to hide himself, the stone became soft and made place for him, where it is seen today, so you can see his image in the pillar, right? But the Blessed Virgin Mary, having obliged him to officiate, she left him when Mass was over the chasuble which had been brought him by angels to celebrate in. The heavenly present is still to be seen in Clermont, where it is preserved with great care. Okay, so the Marian apparition to Saint Bernard, who celebrated Mass with an angelic chasuble. Then we head down to Rome, where they celebrate Madonna della Speranza, Giulianova di Roma in Rome. And the story goes that on March 29th, so today in 1755, there was an image that was facing the street that opened into that town, right? So Our Lady miraculously manifested herself to a pious woman, Maria de Ercole. And Our Lady said to her, "Go to the pastor and tell him that I want to be visited." So Maria de Ercole went and told the pastor, and he didn't believe. So the following day, which that year happened to be Easter Sunday, the image repeated the same words to Maria de Ercole, and she also added, "Tell Pier Antonio Bonelli to remember the promise he made to me." So you said, well, who is Pier Antonio Bonelli? Well, that man had been miraculously freed from the hands of an enemy who was assaulting him and prepared to take his life. So they went and asked Pier Antonio Bonelli about the story. He said, yes, that's absolutely true. I did make a promise. And so from that point on, the pastor and the people gave the beginnings to a new beautiful sanctuary in honor of Our Lady. Likewise in Rome, they also celebrate Santa Maria in Araceli, right? So this is the church of Santa Maria in Araceli, the altar of heaven. That's what Araceli means, right? It sits on one of Rome's 7 hills, the Capitoline or Campo di Olio, where the temple of Juno Moneta, the goddess of finance, once stood. So there is a story told that once Sybil, one of those little prophetesses, told Caesar Augustus, "Ec est ara filii Dei." Like, this here is the altar of God's Son, right? Prophesying the birth of Christ and the coming of Christianity. By the 500s, Greek monks had already built a church there. In the 1200s, Franciscan friars built the present church to honor the belief that Saint Mary, that's, Mary, Mother of God, holding the divine child, appeared to Augustus there. On the high altar, there's an icon said to be by St. Luke, and to have come from Jerusalem, by way of Constantinople, to Rome in the 400s, right? We're told that the present image there is a copy dated to the late thousands, right? During the plague of 1348, this image was processed through the streets of Rome. The plague ended swiftly, and the great staircase leading to the church was dedicated that same year in Thanksgiving. On March 29th, 1636, the Madonna d'Araceli was solemnly crowned. French troops stole the crown in 1797, but it was replaced in 1938. On May 30th, 1948, the Roman people, the people of Rome, were consecrated to the Immaculate Heart of Mary before that icon. Likewise, we also celebrate Notre Dame de Chambron in Chambron-Casteau, Huenat, Wallonia, in Belgium. That beautiful abbey, dedicated to Our Lady, was saved from pillage in 1571. And we also celebrate Virgen del Pilar in Calanda, Teruel, Aragon, Spain. Back on this day in 1640, there is a report of a miraculous healing that took place thanks to Our Lady's intercession. And so that is what we are celebrating today, March 29th, in the Marian world. For today's reading from the Imitation of Mary by Alexander de Rouville, we continue with Book 4 regarding our sentiments, the feelings we should have for the Blessed Virgin Mary. And today we'll read the first part of Chapter 5 entitled, Love for Mary Most Holy. The esteem God has for any being is the only criterion we have for properly evaluating it. What he loves, we too must love. To understand what we should think of Mary and how much we should love her, consider God's esteem of her and the proofs of his love that he gave her. Countless in number are my spouses, says the Holy Spirit, but only one have I adorned with all perfections. That's Song of Songs chapter 6, verses 7 and 8. The spouse who is loved in this extraordinary way by God must, after him, have the complete rule of our hearts and sentiments. God's love for her led him to grant her every privilege that would set her apart. So our love for Mary ought to set her apart from all else that we love after God. God so loved her that he gave her the first place after himself in heaven and on earth. Thus in heaven and on earth there is, after God, no being more worthy of our veneration and love. And that is why all holy men have given her first place in their hearts, after Jesus. The Holy Fathers tell us that we but pretend to love the Son if we do not love the Mother too, for the two loves are inseparable. The Fathers make love of Mary one of the surest signs of predestination, and one of the most precious gifts of grace. The love Mary herself has for us tells us what our love for her ought to be in return. She observes our needs, suffers our afflictions, forestalls our desires, puts up with our faults, and forgets our ingratitude. How eager, then, we should be in showing a return of love.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed our Marian podcast. As St. John Paul II teaches us, from Mary we learn to love Christ, her Son, the Son of God. Through her intercession, may we grow ever closer to him. We encourage you to share this with a loved one or friend and help spread our devotion to Mary. Thank you, and God bless.